All right, I think I'm live now. That is hilarious. Okay. God damn it. There's a button on OBS that says start streaming, and then there's a go live button. Those are two separate buttons. That's hilarious. So I've been talking for 20 minutes to myself. Oh my fucking God. There we go. Holy fucking shit. Hey, you know what? Second time around's better, all right? So first off, welcome to Milk and Cigarettes, episode 9. Holy fucking shit. I've been talking for 20 minutes to myself. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year. Feels good. Feels good to be alive. Feels good to be free, doesn't it? I'm going to pronounce, so I've been doing this for 20 minutes. It's not delayed. Thank you, number station. I have boomered it. I've boomered this so bad. There's a streaming, and then there's a go live button on OBS. I usually use StreamYards. I'm trying to get away from it because I don't want to pay $400 a year for a shitty service that's essentially a Skype call. Yeah, let's go fucking schizo. I don't give a shit. Let's go. Let's go nuts. We're going to get very schizo here. Okay. So I'm on OBS Studio. Sorry about that. It feels like the very first time. Like the Madonna song. I'm like a virgin. Nervous and about to get fucked. Anyways, yes. So what I'm talking about today is how everything has changed. And I'm going to frame this in terms of tactical versus strategic weapons. A tactical weapon helps you win a battle. All right? A strategic weapon helps you avoid a battle. It nullifies a battle. It means it doesn't matter if you lost. What is the Sun Tzu's art? I forget who said it. Someone find it if you want to. It doesn't really matter. It's the wisdom in the ether. Some say, right? The great author of history. Some say that good tactics, good strategy with bad tactics is the slowest route to victory. So good strategy, bad tactics is the slowest route to victory. Good tactics without any strategy is the noise before defeat. So strategy is what wins you wars. Tactics is what makes it not hurt so bad, okay? Strategy helps you avoid battles. It makes it so the outcome of the battle doesn't matter. So, we've been fighting some battles. We've been taking Russian oil tankers. For anybody that isn't caught up on current events, we just went into Venezuela. We took their president in about 6 minutes and 40 something seconds, right? The entire mission was about 3 hours long. We got him in the middle of the night, peacefully, him and his wife alive in US custody and out in 6 minutes and change, right? So that means we can just take whoever we want. Not necessarily, obviously, but right now we're kind of like Batman levels of scary. So what makes a weapon strategic versus tactical? A strategic weapon, we didn't take him, we finessed him. I don't know how to like highlight your thing in here on OBS. Yeah, that's a StreamYard thing. But yes, benign number stations, we didn't take him, we finessed him. We rizzed him up, we rizzed him in the night. It's the rhythm of the night. And we took him. Give me that. What makes a weapon strategic versus tactical is that you can have a weapon that's fully tactical. It becomes strategic when it comes with fear, right? Fear. Nuclear weapons are actually a tactical weapon if you don't fear nuclear war, if you're just crazy enough to not give a damn about nuclear war. It's the fear of the nuclear weapons. And now there is a fear of our special forces. Yeah, it was absolutely dirty engineer. It is one of the greatest flexes. It was flawless and a full reversal from Biden's Afghanistan withdrawal. It made us look from weak to strong. Me and Cosmo were in DMs earlier. I was saying that Trump has, and I will highlight this soon, okay? So Trump has arranged a rogues gallery of cabinet members that are to be feared. If you wanted to put Trump's entire second presidency here into a single term, it's fear, because fear is strategic. Fear motivates. Fear is a baseline emotion, and it knocks people off their balance, right? So right now, we have talked about the strategic weapon of special forces, all right? Iran got a taste, by the way, Put a 1 or a 2. All right, put a 1 in chat if you pronounce it Iran. Put a 2 in chat if you pronounce it Iran. I have no control. It's like a nervous tick. It's like a Tourette's syndrome tick. I cannot control how I pronounce Iran or Iran. So if you're on one team or another, take a shot every time I say it your way, okay? So Iran, all right, Iran team, go ahead and take a shot. Iran got a taste of our strategic weapons in terms of the B-2 bomber. I am also a team 1 because I'm a red-blooded American. I pronounce it American. All right, we're all Americans. It means all the Americans are going to take a shot on Iran. Iran, if it's Iran or Iran, same thing. It's about the eh. Yeah, no, Iran so far away. Hell yeah. Iran got a taste of our strategic weapons in the form of a B-2 bomber, which took off in America, flew halfway around the world, dropped a bomb within 6 meters of its target, and then fucked off. That means we had precision intelligence. By the way, thank you to whoever gave us the intelligence. It's probably Israel, because those guys are sneaky as fuck. They're very good. I think they blew up that port in Jordan last year that was full of munitions. I think it was Jordan. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyways, it was like Lebanon or something like that. I'm not gonna lie, I'm terrible at geography. Until your region produces some sort of special alcohol that I should be consuming, I don't know where you are. Okay, and sorry, the Middle East doesn't produce a lot of alcohol. Anyways, the strategic weapon of just being able to neutralize technology, okay? So that's one strategic weapon. That's the B-2 bomber. We neutralized their nuclear program, allegedly. All current events are alleged. Refer to any current event as just alleged events, okay? Second, all right, our special forces are able to get single personnel, small amounts of personnel out. Can't overthrow a country, right? We're not doing that kind of regime change, but we are getting leverage, okay? We can eliminate technology. That's eliminate their leverage, a nuclear program, for example. We can directly strike at them as if we're freaking Batman from the, Dark Knight, right? Which one? The Dark Knight. Yeah, when we take that Chinaman from Hong Kong. That's us, right now. We took the Fulton out, just like Metal Gear Solid. We have other strategic weapons that you may not have appreciated, right? When I see this, okay? When I see this, and I see this, and I see this, all right? Tehran, Mashhad, Shiraz, which I'm pretty sure there's a wine named after that, so I should know where that is. Shiraz is all right. I prefer other things. All right, here's the lady who lit her cigarette with the burning picture of the Ayatollah, so very good. See if she has any CIA ties. Here's these guys tearing down the gate to the Ayatollah's compound. Allegedly, these are current events. It could be AI. It could be from a different time period. You never know. You find out stuff happened a year ago, and then the footage is recycled to pretend to be current events. The symbol of Iran, everybody take a shot on that one, being pulled off the Capitol in Tehran. Allegedly, the speed of community notes. Okay. This is economics. You see a falling regime. I see a regime that has gone broke. The reason why the Iranians are rebelling right now is largely economic in nature. So how the hell do we have, how does this happen? I'll tell you how it happens. As I said before, Trump has a rogues gallery. We just talked about Hegseth. He's the Delta Force guys. He is the special forces, right? He is the military, all right? And we have Rubio. He's the State Department, okay? Obviously involved in grabbing Maduro, okay? And all of the different doings of the State Department. Hegseth, Rubio, other super soldier. We got super soldiers, man. We must be on serum. This is Scott Bessent. Scott Bessent is the man who pretty much destroyed the Bank of England. He did this by recognizing that England had extremely high interest rates and its currency was pegged to what was going to be the euro, right? Before the European Union was formed, this is like 1993 when this happened. 1992, sorry, the shorting of the British pound by a Soros fund management. Yes, Bessent used to work for George Soros. Listen, he's like a stormtrooper. He's like an imperial general, right, under the Emperor Palpatine, and we've just brought him into the resistance. he was able to recognize that the British pound was pegged artificially to what was going to become the euro. It wasn't allowed to fall. This created a deflationary effect. They ended up increasing the interest rates like 10, 15%. So what Besant did was he recognized that there was a short position he could take. What is a short position? In this case, it was billions of dollars of British pounds he bought, he borrowed on leverage, then exchanged them for German Deutschmarks, which were much more stable, and was able to short the British pound by essentially forcing them to like print. Eventually the whole thing collapsed, right? They pocketed about $1 billion in profits, realizing because a currency is not any different than a stock, right? So when you short a currency, it's the same as shorting a stock. You're betting against it. You borrowed a whole bunch of one stock. You use it to get a different stock, okay? Because you think this first stock you got is going to be worth jack squat when it's time to repay. And that's what happened here, right? It did help England in the long run because it was able to get them out of their deflationary spiral, but they did bag $1.2 billion of profits. And what I'm saying is that Besant is really good at economic warfare, okay? Special philosophy, socioeconomic, exactly. Socioeconomic factors are coming straight to you. If you do not have a solvent nation, Besant is going to call it. Besant doesn't destroy your country via economics. What he does is he calls your hand. He says, "Show me the cards," and you got to ante up. That's what happens. Okay. It's still really funny that I boomered the start of the stream. I was talking for like 20 minutes. I'm already 11 minutes in, and I've covered all the information I blathered on about for that 10 minutes. So you're getting a very like efficient delivery of this information, right? So, anyways, is there anything else to see here? Yes. And I want to go to our fourth super soldier. The fucking Avengers have assembled. What have I highlighted in this screen? Starlink. You would not see any of this. You would see none of these things. You wouldn't see this. You wouldn't see this. Cities falling, shit burning, people cheering. All the stuff you see after a hockey game. All right. Ladies lighting cigarettes on fire with pictures of people. That's very French, by the way. I think there's a French connection here culturally. There's some blood in there. I didn't know that Iran meant of the Aryans, by the way. I wanted to ask Grok because a bunch of people saying we should call it Persia. Persia is the Greek name for it, named after the tribe of Parsa. But the actual region has always been Iran, Iran, whatever you want to call it. Aryanim, land of the Aryans. Yes. Which is, by the way, pretty politically incorrect. So I'm actually totally in favor of it. This first appeared 1500 to 1000 BC. Not this E shit. BCE, my ass. And then properly put in the 3rd century AD. There we go. Yeah. Anyways, so it's Iran. It's not Persia. Persia is the Greek name for it. These people are their own people. You wouldn't be able to get this footage out without Starlink, right? And you wouldn't have a place to post it without X. Both X and Starlink are information strategic weapons. Now, because we're on the side of the good guys, we don't care if the enemy spreads their word on there. They can say whatever they want over Starlink and over X. We're not using, in other words, the weapon here is really more of a highway. We're just letting anybody drive on it. And we're allowing good narratives to come in. The only thing close to a weapon is community notes on here. And that is fairly, I haven't heard a lot of complaining one way or the other about community notes. Maybe there is. It seems fairly fair to me. Okay. Here's them rocking the gate. By the way, if you ever want to bust metal, doing the flex move here, it's pretty good. That's about doing the oscillation. Most things have a resonance, especially metal, because its spring force is fairly consistent throughout the medium. So you can just kind of rock the thing back and forth. If you need to break into something made of metal, it's not a bad way to go. If you get an inch, you can take a mile. And it's the symbol. You would not see any of this without Starlink. So our 4th strategic superhero, our 4th strategic weapon is just straight up information. It's just straight up information moving through. These are all world-changing strategic weapons in and of themselves, right? And now we have 4 of them, probably 5. I don't have Kennedy on here, but Kennedy's doing a lot of really great work behind the scenes to get rid of the impediments that are on the American people. One of the byproducts of Elon Musk's strategic machine is finding the fraud in Minnesota, allowing citizen journalists to go out there and post the truth, at least according to them, alleged truth, right? They can now be added in. Information it's in itself. Let's go back to the tactical versus strategic thing. Information in and of itself is all tactical. It's there to win you an argument, right? If you ever watch an argument with like any leftist, Vosh, Destiny, whoever, all they do is throw information at you. If you want to win a debate, like one of those stupid high school debates, all you have to do is have more information than the enemy, right? Be more well informed. However, new information is a strategic weapon. New information nullifies arguments. So, for example, if you were to have an argument back and forth about police procedure, right? As we did during the entire BLM era, that argument against police procedure is going to go back and forth and back and forth and become very costly and boring for everyone. However, one police body cam shows up and blows arguments out. Strategic weapons allow you to avoid battles. An argument is a battle. The entire battle is nullified by this new strategic threat, which is new information, the police body cam, right? And the police body cam has actually just released. I'm going to see if I can find it really quick. The police body cam is just released for this. Make sure it stays muted. Right. Yeah, it looks like he's right in front of it. All right, so that nullifies the argument. All this has to do is proliferate, and the argument is over. Yeah. This screenshot here, right there. Oh yeah, right there will live in infamy. Clearly right in front of it. Hey, Hadley Doodley. Yes. So new information is always a strategic weapon in arguments. Police body cam footage is a great strategic weapon. It makes them look very silly. As Cynical Publius, he's a great follow, and Data Republican as well, are pointing out that what this information does is allow you to isolate. So this battlefield is all battlefields. I have not finalized this theory yet, but I believe that battlefields happen over mediums through means and channels, right? So the medium is what you're trying to conquer. And in the political battlefield, you're trying to conquer the people's mind share. It's a gigantic marketing push, right? If you could show people this little bit of video, right? So she's backing up and then running forward. If you could show that to people, you're able to win by showing the liars in your opposition, right? In other words, how long are your opposition going to stick to their narrative in the face of this new information? It allows you to cleave off their audience. It allows you to cleave off their their credibility, essentially, right? Yeah, exactly. If I could put your thing number station on here, I would. Is that even benign number station says, even after seeing the body cam footage, I still have Lawberts trying to claim that ICE of the Gestapo of the murdered that chick. Yeah, the Lawberts, the libertarians have always been opposition. They've always been not on our side. They hate whoever's in power. I once said before that there's a different type of person that's there for the revolution than is there for the building, right? Because the revolution always wants to destroy, but the building actually requires that you have consideration. And consideration means that you have to tolerate things being messy. Revolutions are hyper intolerant. Building has to be tolerant, okay? So libertarians are perpetually intolerant. They're mad about something. They're always counter-signaling you about something, which is why I ignore them. They're a voting base you will never really have. They're a voting base that is inconsistent. It's better to increase the enthusiasm of the... So I said before, politically, when you're in democracy, you have your medium. You want to make sure that your territory is always showing up to the fight. In other words, to vote. One side could just win if they just had 100% voter turnout. Obviously, one side, our enemy side, tried to have more than 100% voter turnout by having false vote turnouts, right? That's not good either because, as I said, Elon Musk is our super soldier. Elon Musk is our super soldier. He gives us information, like free information channels, okay? So I said before, there's mediums, and then there are channels as well. The channels allow you to get to the mediums in different ways. Roughly speaking, those are that's your culture, right? So anyways, and your means, of course, is how you're actually going to persuade people, right? So whether you're going to stuff ballots or you're going to knock on doors, right? Those are two different ways, two different means of getting that medium in between, the battle that you're fighting for. All right, so what do all these guys have in common? Well, other than Hegseth, who's our Secretary of War, they're all fairly peaceful. Okay, so this is where I'm kind of draw to the end of this era. I'm going to get a bit philosophical. Bear with me. We went through an era of warriors, right? At least the symbol of a warrior. The kings were considered warriors. The era of warrior kings gave way, as all monarchies do, because all monarchs have to groom their heirs, and often they will pick tutors and aides to help them. These tutors and aides are all scholars, typically. Sometimes they're war buddies, but they're usually scholars. And scholars are easily, I mean, we've seen it, right? Like, we've seen the entire scholarly institution of the university be compromised. And just like that, just like our scholarly institutions were compromised, so are these scholarly institutions that hold up a monarch, that prepare the next generation of monarchs. So almost all monarchies end up turning into a bureaucracy that is run by eunuchs, right? That is run by the scholarly class. The age of warriors, the era of warriors, ended up giving way fairly naturally to the age of scholars, especially once the value of courage yielded to the value of knowledge, right? Guns, Germs, and Steel is considered somewhat apocryphal, but it makes a decent point in their narrative, is that it was actually knowledge of like metalworking, gunsmithing, geography, and history that allowed the conquistadors to take down the Aztec Empire. There's some truth to that, I'm sure. But yes, scholars began taking over for warriors in terms of power. So that's why if you try to go back in time and bring monarchs back, you're just going to bring back the scholars. It's just scholars with one step removed. The age of scholars was horrendous. Yes, the Enlightenment was great, but scholars also brought leftism. They brought forth theorized ways of running societies. Now, these theorized ways of running societies were created from ideas whole cloth, like a scholar would, right? The scholar, let's draw. That was like 2 days ago. Yeah, the English class. Yeah, sorry, I was reading comments. The scholars would create a society entirely from theory, entirely from their minds, and then implement it. And like anything in their mind, when it tries to mesh with reality, it becomes tyrannical or disastrous, right? So the scholars, seizing the institutions of the warrior kings, wreaked havoc on Western civilization and Eastern civilization too, right? Right now, all these super. So this is why I'm saying the world has changed. This is why I'm saying the world has actually changed completely with this, because right now, Trump represents the merchant class, which has never really held hard power. They've always held sort of soft power, and it was always to get you to buy like a soft drink, right? But Trump, a real estate developer from New York, has seized the highest office of the land, grabbed it from think tank driven, 3-letter agency alumni, and has taken DC for himself. The age of the merchant is upon us. The age of the scholar is now dying, right? I mean, what is Ayatollah Khomeini other than a scholar? What is communism than a scholar-based religion, right? These are all scholarly institutions or actual scholars. Usually the scholarly institution gets run by some sort of strongman like a Stalin or Maduro, but their power is entrenched in scholastic worth. One thing of scholastic worth is the bureaucracy of law. It used to be the law was not so bureaucratic back when it was like whatever the king said was law, right? That's where law kind of comes from, especially in the Western tradition from England. It's the interpretation of the law that ends up becoming the scholarly pursuit. What Trump has pretty much said is that international law doesn't matter to him. Like Rubio doesn't care. Nobody cares. Hard power is now being held by the merchants. Now, how did the merchants come to power? It was through technology. It was through this, Starlink satellites. It was through knowledge of the markets, right? And it's Starlink satellites and information are a huge part of it. We've well leveraged the warrior class here as a strategic thing, right? So the warriors are not gone; they're just not in charge anymore. They're a tool in the tool belt. They are an aspect of strategic weapons. And economic information, like actual economic warfare, held by Besant, is allowing us to create chaos where we need to be take advantage of imbalance, right? If Iran was a completely atomic nation where they had their own power, they had their own agriculture, they had their own industry, we wouldn't be able to touch them, right? Wouldn't be able to touch them. However, they have a lot of imbalances and a lot of weaknesses, and they can be exacerbated with sanctions. They can be exacerbated with world events. You don't play well with the world is not going to play well with you. Besant knows how to take advantage of imbalance because you're not really waiting. You're not trying to make the biggest strike. You're waiting for your enemy to go off of balance and then strike with them. It's a dance. All fights are dances. Rather than try to force our will like a neocon, we're actually just waiting for weaknesses. We're waiting for opportunities. We're casing the scene and doing things wisely. This is all stuff that merchants do, right? Right now, we're running America like it's a corporation. It's actually doing very well. Our economics is looking good, right? No more invasions from the southern border. Our enemies are fleeing in terror. Their cities on fire. Their symbols defiled. Even the emoji of Iran flag. If I could pull that up, I'll just put it here. There we go. It's got the new flag. You like the new Iran flag? It's pretty good. It's a lion on it with a sword. No longer the symbol. The red symbol that was here is no longer on their flag. That's how fast things move. That's not a coincidence, I don't think. I mean, Nikita Bear was requested this, and he seemed okay with it, but I don't know if it was his decision unilaterally. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Either way, our strategic weapons have now given us reach and this is kind of going to lead to a little bit of a theory of like, what are the channels at which you control the medium of the world, like global domination? Because it seems like the channels are fear via our special forces, economics via Besant, information via Musk, statecraft via Rubio, right? Like it's a thing to get your hands on because what we have are different vectors for taking over a corporation or destabilizing a rival corporation, right? Even in the information space, I'm seeing on here news and trending Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino being unleashed to me at this time is not a coincidence. I think he's a pretty hard fighter against those who are counter signaling on the right. I think he's going to be essentially throwing elbows and as an inquisitor, trying to make sure people are pure. I think we need to hear a lot less from Dave Smith. I have political comedian fatigue. comedians that don't make jokes. They just say things and expect you to clap. Been tired of that. Don't want any more of that. So I think he's a strategic weapon to get the information space cleaned up, so there's not too much confusion and counter signaling. Yes. So those are the strategic weapons that America wields right now. That's why the world is different. Is you're seeing for the first time a merchant, at least the first time that I know of, a full-on merchant running a country. And he's kind of kicking ass. And he's putting this scholars in their place. Like if you look at Europe, it's entirely run by scholars. All these people with their highfalutin degrees, all of them are very theoretical, very cerebral. And then under the smallest amount of pressure from the United States, completely collapse. I'm just going to keep playing this on loop while I chat. So yes, the world is completely different. The era of warriors ended with World War I, right? Warrior kings, they were warriors. The era of scholars came and went with mostly writing Marxism and different forms of Marxism. Enlightenment as well, but the thing is what the Enlightenment, so there's a certain school of classical liberal thought that is Americanism. I call it. It's what the founding fathers brought here. So when people talk about classical liberalism, it's like, which classical liberalism? Because the classical liberalism of France versus England versus 1600s England, which was America, or 1700s England, which is America, are completely different, right? Like, obviously, the founding fathers don't have blank slate theory. We don't believe that. We will say that all men are to be treated equally under law. We don't really believe that all men are born equal in quality. There was obviously a lot of racial stuff going on back then. Every single founding father was not some like race, did not argue for race equivalence. What they argued for was treatment equally under the law, right? So that liberal attitude was how we wanted our government to treat us, but we don't believe our government is a source of truth. We don't have a king. That's what happens when you revolt against a king. You're saying that our government is no longer a source of truth. And you'll see this has been the fight, actually, the entire time. For this past, 6 years now. Is that our government, usually run by the Democrats, have tried to be a source of truth. Whereas the real red-blooded patriotic Americans have said, no, truth comes from the world. It manifests through experience, not through fiat from some expert, right? This sort of brand of Americanism, I guess what I'm saying is, it is a scholarly pursuit, but the scholars that formed America had restraint and respect, right? They had restraint and respect and allowed America to become what it wanted to become. That is why we persist. And that is why we transform fairly regularly. Yes, so our transformation has been from the scholars of the World War I, World War II era up to present, the merchant era. I believe that Trump is the first merchant president, like full-on merchant president. He's not a lawyer. Lawyers are a type of scholar. As I said, scholars interpret the law. Kings might decree the law, but lawyers interpret it, all right? Whereas merchants don't move on that dimension whatsoever. So that's why I'm saying the world has completely changed. The era, I'm just going to go to my show notes here for a second. Right, so that is the change of the era. What does this mean for humanities and evolution and revolution, right? I have made a video on my channel before called Anathema. Anathema is a video on my channel I made a while ago. I don't make that many standalone videos, but I think it's worth just digesting the thesis statement in there. Anathema means that America is anathema to the old world. I meant it in a context of ethnos, that ethnos, like ethnic group and ethnic unity, was what made a country coalesce. America does not have ethnic unity. We actually kind of make fun of the white identity. It's always been kind of a joke. It still sort of is. Because we don't really believe in having an identity. Like, what does white even mean, right? Like, white, when it first started, was just England and northern Germany and parts of parts of Norway and Finland, right? Areas, families that were sort of atomic, miniature little kingdoms that still obeyed the law, right? That was what it was. That was what was considered white. And it scope creep to include Italians. Like, you go to Albania, are those people white? Are Serbians white? Are Russians white? I mean, it scope creeps. It just becomes a skin color, and it starts becoming a useless metric for unity, right? However, what Americans actually do unify on is economics. We've kind of always unified on that. As long as we're getting paid, we're all fairly happy, because we're very family oriented, and getting paid is directly related to the welfare of your family. That's my theory, at least. However, when you're trying to run a nation, let's say in the old world Europe, that is very ethnically oriented, and you have this big nation that's just like wearing gold chains and wearing Ray-Bans and flying on jet planes, and they're very non-ethnic, then they would, it starts to dissolve the credibility of that ethnically driven country. That's what I'm saying, is that, and the thing is, if let's say Europe was doing really good and America was doing really bad right now, well, that would mean that ethnos is really powerful. So in other words, you have one nation, America, that is it's a very multi-plural ethnos, so it cannot cohere around real ethnic boundaries because we're too fractured. You would have to start whitewashing. Literally creating the term white was an American term to describe the multitude of different peoples that made up America. Way back in like the 1700s, right? And then you have another kingdom over here that's entirely about ethnos. So this one gets its power from ethnos working together and having a non-ethnocentric society. This one, its unity comes from ethnos, right? America's winning right now, which tells me that the mercenary mindset is actually fairly valid. These are going to compete. This anathema, I know it doesn't give me any joy. Yeah, I'm white in power. I'm white where it counts. Where it counts. There we go. Yeah, you know what? I'm white in the parking lot when it comes to returning grocery carts. There we go. Yes. Well, the funny thing is that starting out with a majority of fairly Protestant English settlers in America. All right, so you start with this big mass, right? And then there's a little bubble that comes in and joins, okay? That little bubble gets indoctrinated to join the big mass. And that newcomer dissolves and becomes part of this fairly Protestant, fairly American identity, okay? And the problem is if you start bringing in a mass that's similar size to that, like bringing in tons or they never actually meld together. That whole melting pot thing actually does have some validity to it, as much as people hate melting pots. But essentially, people will behave according to the majority so long as there is no enclave for them to form of their own people, right? There's Vietnamese girls I went to school with that just spoke like Valley girls. They just sounded like every other white girl. Like they thought like every other white girl. They more or less behaved like every other white girl, right? So there are valid criticisms of having a hyper multi-ethnic state like America. However, it seems to just, it sort of comes out it ends up just turning into stand-up routines. The 90s was a real time. All the racial tension that happened afterward was because of artificially funded academic Marxists, I think, which later became woke. I think if you just didn't have that entirely artificial academic bullshit, I think America could just live in an eternal 90s. And I think everybody would be okay with that. However, Europe may suffer from this because if they see that there is a different way of living that is completely anathema to their own way of living, and that other way is very successful, it could start to do. So what Europe is going to have to do in response to this is have a very strong identity of themselves and be like, listen, America's got its own stuff. That's really great for them. We got our own thing. Right now, Europe is trying to be America, and it's actually destroying them. Like, bringing in immigrants is not really a European thing. Like, bringing immigrants from outside of Europe, I don't think is a major thing that Europeans have ever done. It's a major thing that Americans have done, right? Trying to be Europe is actually destroying America, and trying to be America is actually destroying Europe. In other words. So, yeah, exactly. We're supposed to make fun of race. Race is funny. Race is funny. Gender is funny. Everything's funny. Our differences are supposed to be funny because humor is a playful way for us to actually engage in serious subject matter, right? Making fun of somebody is a great way, like having fun with it, right? I used to leave garbage everywhere when I was early in my marriage, and my wife was like not yelling at me, but she was like yelling at me. She pulled out an empty bag of Ziploc, like empty Ziploc bag out of the refrigerator. It had like a couple of tiny slices of green onions on it. And she says, "What is this, Alex? What is this? What is this?" You guys just garbage, right? Obviously, I don't say, I then start shouting to meet her tone. I says, "Well, it was a bag of fucking scallions. Now it's a bag of fucking nothing. Get off my balls." And I said in like a really Italian accent. I got her to laugh. I got the point. Don't leave trash in the fridge. If it's empty, it's empty. Throw it away. And she got a good laugh out of it. She got her catharsis, and we moved on. That's kind of how it goes. All right. Racial humor is actually really good for integrating races. This is a controversial point, but people tend to do better when you're making fun of their actual faults. There will probably be a return of hyper-racialized humor. I'm hoping that Europeans make fun of Americans because it will help. It'll help them entrench their own identity. Right? Like a bunch of like polite Nordic people. Right? I see someone Odin the German Shepherd. If Odin's watching a skit about a bunch of loud American frat boys, piercing the peaceful landscape with like fjords and aspens in the background, and you're like way zoomed out, and you could just hear like this slight rabble of Americans just destroying the nature and everything. And then you just zoom in and zoom in and zoom in. It gets louder and louder and louder. And it's just dudes just wrestling each other in the middle of the forest like a bunch of morons. That's funny. Make fun of Americans for it. Assert yourself. Like the great thing about humor is that it helps you assert your own identity while also saying that's a different identity than mine. While also allowing you to get along together, strangely enough. Like, because Americans, if it's good humor, Americans will laugh at it too. It's like, yeah, it is kind of us, isn't it? We are pretty loud. We do like to wrestle. We do disrupt the peace everywhere we go. So, yes, the merchant age is upon us. What does that mean? That means that information is going to start moving extremely freely. Ironically, the scholarly class tends to want to control information more than the merchant class. Merchants don't give a shit. Second off, merchants don't actually care how you live or what you do. Like, they'll ridicule you, sure, but merchants just want to sell you the hamburger. That's all they want to do. They're going to make the paperclip. They're going to sell you what you want to buy, right? Like Elon Musk doesn't actually care. He gets a lot of Europeans can be funny if they wanted to be. I think I had my way with Nick Fuentes. I think you could. There are some pretty funny Europeans. Even the British can be funny sometimes when they try not to be Oscar Wilde. I hate Oscar Wilde's humor. That immortal Irish gay man has ruined British humor forever. Now it's everybody just trying to be more clever than each other. I hate that aspect of British humor. Let me out clever everyone. Who gives a shit? I like Japanese humor. Have you ever seen this like Super Gay? I think oh no, it's Hard Gay. That's right. In Japan, Hard Gay. Yeah, there we go. Hard Gay is the best. Turn sound off. Just yeah. He just goes and disrupts this office. That's Japanese humor. I think it's hilarious. It's just disruptive. All these office people. Those office people. Let me see if I get the desktop volume on here.
どうもはじめまして。見ての通りハードゲーですけども。ダメですか?
This man is in distress. I can't zoom in. I want to zoom in more. This man is in great distress.
はい、もしもしハードゲー。
His poor salary man for the rest of the Yeah, it's Hard Gay. That's funny as hell. I once saw a step pyramid of lubed up people try to get up a pyramid, like get up while they get blasted with a cannon. It's funny. That's Japanese humor. Everyone's got a humor, I think. Hopefully. Anyways, yes. This is what you get. This is what the Iranians get. Good Lord, that's a mosque. Burn that mosque down. Everyone's loving it. But that's Scott Bessent. Yes, yeah, and we didn't have to get involved. Like, I saw one Lotus Eater guy, Josh Fermi, talking about, did America vote for regime change? Do we really want regime change? Like, yeah, we don't mind. But why do Americans not want regime change? Right? It's not because we don't want regimes to change. Okay? Yeah, that's right. It's a Japanese baseball player. He's the best. He's so great. He's so funny. It's not that we don't want regimes to change, is we just don't want to be in a quagmire where we have to babysit the regime that is changing, that doesn't want to change. This is a regime that does want to change, and we're not even involved. By the way, this looks like a Disney. Kind of looks like they're setting fire to Disney World. Give it a few years. Anyways, like, it's not that we don't want regimes to change, it's that we just don't want to be there for it and be stuck with the bill and stuck with all the bad press. Like, if they want to change their own regime, fine. If we put a little bit of economic pressure via sanctions to do it, fine. If we want to make their leadership look like a bunch of buffoons who can't stop their nukes from getting nuked, that's fine, like, right? 12-day war, in and out. Trump is like the current administration is like the one person that shows up to the party and knows exactly what words to say to cause the party to turn into chaos. You know, Donald Trump just shows up and there's like, that baby's not yours, by the way. May want to get that checked. And then then he just leaves. 12-day war is over. And afterwards, when he just straightens his tie as he walks away, as like the party turns to complete chaos. You just hear chairs being thrown. That's exactly what we're doing. We're leaving chaos in our wake, but it's not chaos that we have to clean up. It's literally like, get your shine box politics. We're here to force the issue, not to clean up the issue. I guess what I'm saying. And that is kind of how the merchant class would do it. Oddly enough, now, taking the merchant class off of the sidelines, because right before they were just like the Northrop Grummans of the world, and the Lockheeds and the Halliburtons, right? And they were parasites. Strangely enough, what used to be a parasite during the Iraq and Afghanistan war is now the host, right? Because America allows hosts to change. We've allowed the power transition from warrior, which George Washington was part of the warrior class, right? Over to scholar. Obviously, like, pretty immediately went to scholar class. Stayed that way for a long time, and now we have our first merchant president. Was it Pat Buchanan? He ran for president. It was Ross Perot. Ross Perot probably would have been our first merchant president had he won, but he was just a vote splitter, a dirty third party. That's not how you win. Trump was a realist and just took over the very weak Republican Party. Very smart. Merchants tend to know when a asset is at low value and can swoop in and make a good offer. That's what he did. Right now, it looks like we're getting things done very economically. And Trump is putting the screws on the defense industry, saying like, yeah, CEOs can't have like this $5 million plus, compensation while also not delivering. So if you want to take control of merchants, put a merchant in charge. If you put a scholar in charge of a bunch of merchants, the merchants are just going to start poking holes in their well-laid plans. A scholar will sit there and put together a Byzantine rubric of rules and regulations. So that's the weapon of the merchant class. The weapon of the warrior class is actual physical warfare, which is quite horrifying, and most people don't want to tolerate it, right? The scholar class creates regulations. They will take this initial law and they will spiral it out. If you want to look at the amount of material written about the Bible versus the actual Bible, it makes the Bible look pretty small. Like, there's so much information about like interpretations and this, that, and the other. The scholarly works about the Bible are even bigger than the Bible, right? And it becomes extremely Byzantine. That's what we were facing. We were being strangled under the weight of our own scholarly class. And lawyers are a type of scholar, as I've said before. And now you have this merchant class, this merchant that just took over, and he's like, screw all that stuff. None of it works. Throw it out. Throw it all out. Oh, you have these norms? It'd be a shame if somebody just trampled all over your norms, right? Stock, dang, nice. Yeah, good for you, benign number state. Good for your friend. Good for your friend. Huntington Ingalls stock, and he told it as it spiked after Venezuela. This is a great time to be on the merchant team. All right, so I'm going to end it with this, by the way. I want to say why the merchant age is probably actually pretty good. Because if the merchants are able to keep their ambitions in check, like if there is a certain love of country that Trump has, and they can be kept in check, they tend to deliver what you want them to deliver. Like they don't, like, let's take, for example, like Windows, right? Windows 11 sucks. It's basically malware. I don't like it. Nobody likes it. It's laden with shit. There will be a competitor eventually. Windows is probably the biggest case for like monopoly, being a monopoly, right? And I think, I'm going to make a prediction. I think it will be replaced in the next 20 years. 20 years is actually kind of like a safe bet. I would actually bet sometime in the next 5 years, you're going to see serious competitors start to ramp up. And then in 10 years, you're going to start to see them become more common. And then in 20 years, they'll be ubiquitous, I think, because right now their product is so bad. Usually merchants try to deliver you something that is pretty good. And by the way, the alternative to Windows might end up just coming from Android. Who knows? Right, which is a flavor of Linux, but it's run by Google, but it's also open source, right? So being run by the merchant class usually means, how can I serve the people, my customers? How can I make them have the buy-in necessary, right? Whereas the scholar class is entirely up in their nonsense, and the warrior class is compelling you through force. Right? I think that maybe the merchant, so far I like what I see from the merchant class. Like Trump is up there dancing and singing to please us and to make us calm so that he can make things better. They're always trying to deliver better things. And the United States doesn't run on a quarterly system, right? It's not like a stock. Like you can't if you're an American citizen and you live in America, it's not like you could sell your American stock and put it into some other stock, right? Like we're actually here for the long term, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens when a merchant class is forced to think long term. I think the quarterly system that most corporations run under is kind of shit. I made a post a little while ago, and this is going to tie this up. I don't remember where. Oh, by the way, here's who's this guy? Benign Number Station, JonTron. I think it's JonTron. Yeah, I don't know why. We just got behold the Aryan. Is he Iranian? Is JonTron Iranian? Is that why you said that? And I was like, he actually looks like an Iranian king. He kind of looks like it. I'll see if I can find what I'd said before. No. Here we go. Yeah. JonTron, his middle name is Aryan. Really? His middle name? I think you're joking with me. That'd be so funny. That's half Iranian. Hey, man, if he is, he is. That's awesome. Yeah, so I actually have a theory here that monarchies don't... All right, so this is where I make all the monarchists happy somehow. Being an American, making a monarchist happy is like apocryphal, is a sin, right, as an American. The monarchies don't work well for government for the reasons I said, but the grooming stuff and all this. But the merchant class does well with a monarchical structure. You could actually have a monarchy of like these corporations like Kikkoman and Beretta. Like you can have corporations run by families that last longer than kingdoms do, last longer than nations do. Right? So oddly enough, the monarchs could end up just going into business. And you're going to see these sort of dynastic family businesses that just go on forever. And they're pretty much their own thing. I said that, I was talking with Cosma. Let's see if I can spell the word beautiful. Corporate campuses. Beautiful corporate women. What is that? Yeah. So, popping in and showing you like these corporate campuses are essentially the modern palaces. Yeah. So merchants are going to become the kings. And instead of becoming a king of a land, you are a king of an economic region. What I said before, that domination is about the medium and the means and the channels. The medium here is market share of whatever market they're in. Right? So as long as these people can reign in that territory, they can maintain their castles of market share, right? I think Microsoft is going to lose its market share in operating systems within the next 20 years. But like, you're going to have these kings reigning, building palaces to their corporate structure. And that's actually going to, I think, going to be well, this is Dartmouth College, but corporate headquarters, Keurig, Dr. Pepper. I thought the Hamilton Beach corporate campus was pretty good. Yeah. Let me do John Deere corporate HQ headquarters. There we go. Those are some better pictures. A bit brutalist for my taste, but I like the showroom. If I get a better picture than that. Good view right here. Yeah, the best view of a building is outward looking, not inward looking, usually. The building itself can be pretty, but if you're in the building, the grounds need to be prettier. Yeah, yeah. So you're going to get these beautiful palatial curated gardens. You're going to have this return with the V, and it's not going to be like some ancestral king, warrior king with a crown. It's going to be, are you someone who can rise up the corporate ladder or make your own kingdom out of nothing? And you can make a kingdom out of nothing, right? Like if you were an engineer, if you're a mechanical engineer right now and you just wanted to specialize in rugged appliances that would last you a lifetime, you'd probably become a billionaire if you worked hard enough. There are plenty of markets that are open, and there are plenty of things that you can do to gain. Like, this is your frontier, I guess what I'm saying. Corporate headquarters campus. Of course, there's Google and all that stuff. Let me see if I can. Let's see if I can pull up a good article. Oh, here we go. Here's a nice slideshow. Let's see how this goes. So this is in a city that they've made their own like arcology here. Buffalo Trace. I love Buffalo Trace. Let's check that out. See if I can get a good picture of the building. All right. It was like an old factory sort of thing. Ruggedized. This kind of looks like the Jack Daniels headquarters too. Yeah, Jack Daniels headquarters is pretty good. I wonder if this, it says Buffalo Trace on there. Yeah, they usually have their own water system. Yeah, usually these companies have their own like town built around them if they're doing production as well as the corporate stuff, right? And what this does, it gives you some upward mobility. Here's the Walmart campus. I guess it's a render, right? McDonald's. There's Google, Alphabet. Like here's Ford, ExxonMobil, Meta, right? JP Morgan Chase. You end up getting these palaces, and this is going to be the leaders of the world of the future. As we said, Elon Musk is actually a pretty good prototype of someone who has strategic worldwide value that translates well into real space. But like, so does ExxonMobil. Like, so does Lockheed Martin. So does like, who's the Oculus fella? Who's the Oculus fella? Oculus, and he's working. Gosh, Palmer Luckey, that's right. Who's working in Anduril, right? Who's gonna increase production of artillery and major arms, right? He's getting into the military space, which follows on because video games and military are not that unrelated. It's all about data integration and presentation. Yeah, so what I'm saying is that these are our super soldiers. These are our lords, right? America no longer, oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dirty Engineer. The space that we're taking is no longer physical land. Okay, that stopped being a major asset for most things in the last couple hundred years. Right now we're trying to take the space. Like Buffalo Trace is the medium is alcohol sales. Buffalo Trace is taking some. Okay, Jack Daniels is also taking some. That's why America also that's why America is also kind of a factory for great men, because we give them these frontiers at which they can both take new territory, but also compete with each other to gain it. Like, may I reiterate that our president is a real estate developer from New York City. That is the main source of his revenue. and his main source of his reputation. In the hyper-competitive environment of real estate development in New York City, where you're shaping the skyline of the world's capital, right? There we forged, iron had sharpened iron, the leader of the free world at the moment. What other leaders of the free world are we going to make in this battlefield, in these new frontiers that we constantly fight in? So the age of the merchant is upon us, and I don't think it's ever going to stop. Frankly, the sort of lawyers and, state crafters, they're fine. They're good. That's a different type of battle, obviously, like especially if you're Rubio, who's been in the Senate for a long time, who's been in government for a long time. I think J.D. Vance is a kind of green behind the gills. He's got a good life experience. We'll see how that pans out in the primaries. We'll see if he can hang. I think he will. I think if he can get Trump's endorsement, he'll be fine. I think either way, America wins. So I'm not on either one of them's team. I'm not against anybody. I'm for everybody, I guess what I'm saying. So yes, this age of merchants is upon us. Conquerors of new space, finder of new frontiers at all times in both technology, production. Also, by the way, bringing back manufacturing to America is going to be, I think JD, I kind of favor him too. I think Rubio is kind of good as a pocket king, and we'll bring him out later on. But if JD Vance, I think, was going to get 8 years of presidency, and whoever comes after him is probably going to get 8 years. So that's 16 years of Republican presidency. That's 16 years of changing the public schools. That's 16 years of shaping the judges, the roster of judges. That's 16 years of Supreme Court appointments, however many there are in that. 16 years is a long time. That's 16 years of going after fraud. Like USAID was just the beginning of it, right? There's tons of fraud that happened that funds political activism. And you see that the protests for this latest shooting, this ICE shooting, is actually pretty mild and pretty boring and pretty dumb. There's one lady who said to Laura Ingraham that, hey, I'm being paid to be here, as a protester. And Laura Ingraham was like, thank you for saying that. Obviously, they're not paying their coaches very well. There used to be coaches for these protesters. Now the protesters are just getting cut a check and told to stand around and shout stuff. And they don't have any messaging discipline because they're going to make themselves look terrible. So it's an unstable system. You start cutting funding from their activist network, and their activists end up backfiring, which then means more Republicans get elected, which means that their funding sources for activism are under more and more scrutiny, and it's easier to eliminate it. Whereas Donald Trump was pretty much floated on personal donations from American citizens. It's just people. Like, people actually give Republicans money, turns out, because Republicans take care of their money. Yes, I think this new age is going to be interesting. It's going to be good. I think business is going to be the future. I don't know if we have a lot of other business people who are going to get involved, but remember, Trump was a dark horse too. Like, he announced his presidential run, and then he was the president within a couple of years, right? So somebody could just come out of nowhere and go, right? And sometimes it's good to just have influence from the merchant class, although influence should not be bought. But yes. All right, guys. Oh, I didn't mention this. Cosmo's at CES. Right? I don't think the subject really would interest Luna. We usually try to bring her on for lady things. And I'm probably going to focus less on lady things. We'll see. So there's not a whole lot for her to talk about on this one for sure. Cosmo and I were going back and forth in DMs. Really excited to have him see what his reaction is to this one. But yes. Our battlefields and our frontiers are now expanding. I didn't even talk about the fact that we might have piracy, like privateers again. That'd be amazing, because me and Cosmo were talking about how to fight off the Chinese illicit fishing fleet. It's like you could just have privateers sinking those ships and taking bounties. Well, that would actually create an era of maritime production, but also like American culture of privateering, which would be hilarious and awesome. Yes, yes, but number station, you are correct. Like the media has this is a good thing to end on, actually. The media, by being super anti-Trump, has destroyed themselves. Well, this also applies to new media, the social media, the influencer sphere. A lot of the people on the right are also hyper anti-Trump, and they're going to destroy themselves. And you're seeing this in real time, right? You're seeing credibility. Credibility is a marketplace. And you're going to see that credibility is going to be at a premium soon. That's why I like Vince Dow. He just delivers the news. He's an actual journalist. He's in the Pentagon now. That's DAO, Vince Dow. Famous Italian American. And he just delivers it straight. Everybody who is trying to like pick winners right now is destroying their credibility. It's no good. It's no good. Just report the news, you know? Don't try to be a driver of the movement. Like, fuck off. I know a bunch of MAGA grannies love your channels and stuff, and they post like hearts emojis and stuff on your channel. It doesn't mean anything. It's like, don't, the number of likes you get does not matter. All right. Okay. Well, if any closing comments, I'll give it a few more minutes here for closing comments, and I'm going to kill it at 6:30. Take a sip of my extraordinarily iced and watered down whiskey. Where is the Buffalo Trace Distillery, actually? Yeah, where is this place? I want to go. Oh, it's in Kentucky. Okay. Yeah, give me, yeah, Google Maps, do it. Okay. Where is it? Frankfort. Oh, that's just outside of Lexington. That's not too far. I can go there. Definitely need to go to okay, cool. Awesome, awesome. Lexington's a great town. Yes, the American century is upon us. It's going to be pretty intense. A lot of people are going to be bitter about it. Listen, people can be bitter about America doing really well. I don't hold it against them. The Europeans are in a very frustrating state. I usually shit on Europe, and I actually kind of feel bad about it. Because, like, they don't choose this stuff, and it's a new world, and it's changing so fast, and all their history and everything is like, what is it worth? What's worth keeping and what's worth leaving behind? And it's going to be a mad scramble to grab what's in the house that you want to take with you out of the burning house. Like, what's going to bring you to the future? What can burn with the past? That's a tough decision to make. Americans have to make that decision all the time. We go through a lot of transformations. It's just things move so fast here, but we take for granted that the old world has some heritage and has some old to it. I feel genuinely pretty bad. They will find their way, though. They're strong people. You can't keep a good man down. I believe that. Chinese and Russian tech. Yes. This is another thing, actually. This is a good point that Dirty Engineer brings up, is that all these strategic weapons that I didn't even talk about electronic warfare. Actually, long story short, for the last 15 years, you haven't seen a lot of new fighter jets and stuff, just the F-35, F-22. That's because most of the work has been going into their electronics warfare suite. Oh, there's a bourbon festival. Bourbon festival. All right, I'm going to check that out. Bourbon festival. Screw whatever I was saying. Bourbon festival in Bardstown. Okay. Shoot, I have a meetup there. All right, I'm going to keep an eye on that. Anyways, yes, so the electronics warfare suites have been the actual meat and potatoes of what these fighter jets have. It's no longer about how much... It's not about the guns anymore. Like, the missiles are strategic. It's there for air superiority, to keep aircraft down. It's there to take out strategic targets if you're doing, like, air-to-ground missiles. But it's mostly for jamming now. It's jamming... making yourself appear like ghosts on the radar, so like minimizing your footprint, doing active stealth, active radar defeating, that sort of stuff, so that you can just pop out of nowhere, blow stuff up, and pop back out. That's where a lot of the meat and potatoes, and frankly, the other powers, China and Russia, their tech is way behind. Like, China can steal a bunch of tech if they want to, but they can't steal the... You could steal the lock, but you might not have the key. Let me put it that way. Like, you could steal 99% of the punch cards of an old school computer program. Without that last 1%, it's useless. All right. So yes, they are being shown out on the field as being lacking. Russia and China will probably become paper tigers. And when it comes to a global merchant class, they're completely outclassed. If you want to try and be a scholar, like there's a reason why all the scholars of America fell for China and Russia, because they are scholar-based nations. They are based on Marxism, a scholarly institution, right? Well, the merchants don't fall for that shit, okay? The scholars might. And by the way, the neocon Republicans were scholars, all Yale and Harvard educated, think tanks galore backing them, all that crap. Trump needs none of that. He is the first merchant leader, so he is the leader of the merchants. There will be more. It will be less unified in the future, but it will be good. We may not have a leader who is as charismatic as Trump has been, but maybe we'll be surprised, you know? I think Trump has served a great purpose and continues to serve a purpose to transition us into a better world. Getting us out of the scholar headspace is going to save millions of lives, because the scholars have killed so many more people than with their theoretics and their utopianism than any warrior could have. Like Genghis Khan comes close, but when you're starting to get compared to Genghis Khan, it's not a good sign. All right, guys, it is 6:30. It is fun doing a solo stream, I gotta say, without any breaks for a drink. Gosh, am I thirsty. Thirsty for water, thirsty for whiskey, thirsty for wisdom, and thankful for you guys. Thank you for joining me on episode 9 of Milk and Cigarettes. I know we'll never truly go home again, not with what we know now. Let the age of the scholars, burn in flames like the Ayatollah's big stupid ass palace. Yeah, this is the age of scholars being burned by some absolute stunner. Good night, guys. Good luck. God bless.